Okay, here's a Brougham gauge, and we're hooked up now for the oil module sending unit fix. So the oil and gas gauges are the same, it's just the lens that is different. So right now we're showing 0 oil pressure, and the module is on. There's the module. This one bolts underneath the generator telltale relay, and there's a couple of screws that I'll provide you that are a little longer than the existing ones that hold that relay in place. So this one sandwiches in underneath that relay, and when you screw it in you can't see it in the car. And the instructions show how to install these. This is really easy. All the connectors on this are pre-done for you in the right color wire, so you just plug them into the existing wire harness. The grounds here, one will slip underneath the generator telltale relay just to ensure a good ground, and then the other ground goes into the power antenna relay, and just tape it to the existing wire harness. And again, you won't be able to tell it's in place. So since I don't have an oil pressure sender here to vary, this is the test setup that Bruce Rowe made for me, and we have a potentiometer here that simulates the oil sender and also the gas gauge when I'm testing these out. Once I build the boards, this is how I test to make sure that they're right. So we got a power supply going. We have this temporary setup here with the potentiometer, and we're showing 0 volts, or not 0 volts, but almost 0 ohms, which gets you to the start spot. And as I walk up the potentiometer here, the gauge will start to move. And typically you're not going to see the full range of motion. The relief valve in the Brougham oil pressure pump is supposed to be set about 35 psi, so if you're getting over 35 psi, you've probably got something else going on. But should you get full sweep, the gauge is calibrated to max out at 60 psi. So when I set the gauge back, and it's like 105 ohms or so is max, the gauge is walking back up to the hash mark showing 60 psi. But again, you're probably never going to see that unless you're running a different engine and a different setup. But as I walk the knob back here, changing it, the gauge sweeps around. And these gauges are sticky. It will travel, the needle will travel at different speeds as it sweeps through the zones. I've cleaned this gauge and I still get moments where it goes a lot slower than others. So I think it's just where they wore in when new and accumulated debris and stuff that you just can't seem to get out. My particular car, when I'm running, it will hang right about, I'm going to say here is where it shows, and then when it's down at idle, it'll be at about that mark there. But as I've noticed and tested several different sending units with the same module and gauge setup, in practice I don't think there's a lot of quality control in the new gauges or the new sending units, in that they will read differently, so it'll be sensitive to the particular one that you get, but once you've been driving the car, you'll know what's normal for you. Your gauge will move accordingly to the pressure that the sending unit puts out, so the gauge will vary depending upon engine RPM and temperature. So hopefully that answers or gives you a brief overview of what these are, and enjoy. It's nice having a gauge that works.